welcome or welcome back to my channel if you're new here. My name is Mary and today's video is going to be my wrap up for the month of August. So I've already done a partial wrap up this month where I talk about the books that I read at the beginning of the month for Olympics-a-thon and everything that I read at the end of July for Olympics-a-thon as well. So I thought I would start this off by going through my stats like I normally do. Those books will be counted in my stats, but I will not be going over them again here. I will mention those books, but I'm not going to go in depth in my reviews because I've already reviewed them. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so in the month of August, I did manage to read 18 books. I DNF'd 3 books. I read a total of 5,419 pages. As always, this does not count the books that I DNF'd, the pages of them. It only counts books that I completed, which is a flaw in my system, but I never remember to keep track of how many of the books or how many of the pages of the DNFs that I have I actually read. So sorry about that. For genres, I read 4 romances this month, 3 historical fiction, 2 fantasy, 2 contemporary, 2 mystery thriller, 2 horror, 1 nonfiction, 1 sci-fi, and 1 classic. As far as author gender goes, I read 4 male authors, 13 female authors, and 1 non-binary author. For author race, I read from 13 white authors, 2 black authors, and 3 other person of color authors. Sorry about that. 1 was South Asian, 1 was East Asian, and 1 was like South American, I guess. For author country, I read from authors from the USA, Chile, Algeria, and the United Kingdom. How I read 1 book physically, 1 book via ebook, and 16 audiobooks. As always, I read a lot of audiobooks. That's how I get a lot of my reading done. That's how I read so many books. So if you were curious, that is basically the secret. Okay, demographic-wise, I read 17 adult books and 1 young adult book. No middle grade this month. I don't think I've read a single middle grade all year, to be honest with you, but that's fine, I guess. I definitely read at least 1 translated book, and now I'm gonna have to look, at least 2 actually. Hold on, I'm gonna check how many translated books I read, and I will come right back. Okay, I was correct. I did read 2 translated books this month. 1 was translated from French, and 1 was translated from Spanish. Sorry about that. I read for settings. I read books set in Spain, Chile, Argentina. No, I read books set in Spain, Chile, Algeria, Pennsylvania, fantasy settings, Iowa, Scotland, Great Britain, Denver, London, Maine, California, Houston, Tennessee, Bath, and New York State. And if you're wondering why I keep track of that, for fun. I don't know why. I don't really have a reason. I read 6 books with queer rep in them this month, and I had 0 1 stars, 2 2 stars, 2 2.5 stars, 4 3 stars, 1 3.5 star, 5 4 stars, and 4 5 stars, which is an average rating of 3.6. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the books in the order in which I enjoyed them, but I'm gonna start with the worst ones that I read. Oh, I guess I'll start with my DNFs. I DNF'd 3 books this month. The first one was Machines Like Me by Ian McEwan, which I DNF'd in the most recent vlog that I did, so I will direct your attention there if you are curious about my thoughts on it. It's a sci-fi alternative history book set in England in the time of the Falkland Wars, but in this history, England lost the Falkland Wars, and there's a guy who has a robot, and it's about him and his robot, and I thought it was very boring, so I did not keep reading it. Sorry. I also DNF'd Protecting Piper. Who's the author of that? Cynthia something? Give me 1 second. Cynthia Eden. This is a protective, like, best friend's older brother romance, because if you have missed it, I recently watched Bridgerton, and so I've been on the hunt for really good, like, slow burn friends to lovers romances, specifically where it's like a family friend type thing. That's what I've been looking for. This one, the main guy was just too much of an alpha male type thing, and I'm just really not into that. So I did not like it very much. There's also a weird, like, I feel like it was almost a romantic suspense element where Piper has a stalker or something. And to be honest, I didn't care about it. I did not get very far into that one because I didn't like the hero, and I didn't really care about the romantic suspense plotline. So that was a miss for me. And I also DNF'd One for All by Lily Lainoff, which is a gender-bent YA retelling of The Three Musketeers about this girl who is disabled, and her dad is like a swordsman. I don't know. I did not get very far into this one. It did not seem like something I was going to enjoy. I've not read The Three Musketeers, but I don't know that I care to, and I didn't care about reading this. So I think a lot of people would like this. It didn't feel like it was going to be a win for me. It felt like at most it was going to be 3 stars, and that would be like generous because I would feel bad giving it less than that just because like the representation is good, I guess, but it just wasn't for me. It just wasn't working out. So I did not finish that. I didn't get very far into that one either. So I guess I didn't read very much of any of the books that I DNF'd. I was pretty quick on the draw to just be like, no, thank you. Now, starting with my 2 stars, there are 2 of them, I believe. First one I'm gonna talk about is Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. So this I read because I enjoyed Rock, Paper, Scissors so much, which, spoiler alert for this, I guess I gave that 5 stars. That was one of my favorite things that I read this month, but I did talk about that in my Olympics-a-thon wrap-up, so I will link you there if you are curious about that. But this is another mystery thriller, and it's set on this island off the coast of Great Britain, and it's about this family who is, the like matriarch of the family, the grandmother, thinks she's gonna die around her 80th birthday. So on her 80th birthday, she calls, or 90th birthday, whatever birthday it is, she calls all of her kids and grandkids to her house to discuss her will. And I just did not like the twist of this one. Like, it ends up being like a 1-by-1 situation where people keep getting offed and you don't know who among the party is the killer, and Daisy is the main character that you're like in the point of view of. I just didn't like the twist. It didn't work for me. I don't know if it's this twist in general that I don't like, or if it was just the way that this one delivered it, but it felt like a cheap shot to me, so I wasn't really happy with that. And I read another book recently who had a twist similar to this, but I feel like it was better done and more understandable. So I've seen this twist done well. So I guess I don't hate the twist. I just did not like it in this instant. But your mileage may vary. Some people really enjoy this book. And the other book that I gave 2 stars this month, I almost DNF'd, but that is The Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke by Eric LaRocca. Now, this is a horror novella, and it's basically emails between these 2 women who they met in like a queer chat room, and they are in like a relationship where one is the drudge and the other is like the master. And the master makes the drudge do like horrible, disgusting things. And I just it was both too much for me and also not enough, if that makes sense. I just didn't enjoy myself at all while reading it. And I wanted to DNF it at a certain point, but then I didn't have that much left. So I was like, I may as well just finish it. So I did. I sat down, I buckled down, and I finished it. And frankly, I don't know if I am happy about that decision. It's fine, but not for me overall. I have not talked about this yet, but I read The Late Americans by Brandon Taylor, which is kind of an ensemble cast. It's about various people who are at the Iowa Writers Workshop in Iowa City, Iowa, and which is like, Iowa, if you're not in the US, is like a very corn-fed Midwest state. And then Iowa City has the university there, which has this really prestigious writing workshop. So a lot of really famous writers attended. I actually have another book that was a nonfiction book by an author who attended that writers community. But this book is primarily about like queer people of color in that town and their interactions with each other. Here's the thing. I gave this 2.5 stars. I found it kind of hard to follow because there were too many characters and so many of them were very similar. So they were either in a relationship where they weren't happy, or they were being like cheated on in a relationship, or they were cheating on someone in a relationship, and I couldn't keep all the characters straight in my mind. Like, I feel like there were just too many points of view, I don't know. But I think your mileage may vary on this one. It's like a literary contemporary. It's more like general fiction, but I did class it as contemporary. It's very slice of life. It's these people trying to figure out what they want to do. Again, primarily gay men in this community. And it was just kind of a little bit of a slog to get through, to be honest. It's not super long. It's like 300 pages, but I just found it too confusing for what it was. Like, the plot was not confusing, but also nothing happened. So for me personally, it was a miss, but I understand that other people might like it, and I'm happy for you. The other 2.5 star that I read, I think this book suffered by being like the 2nd or 3rd dud in a row for me. So I could have realistically given this 3 stars. I just didn't enjoy it that much. And because it was like the 2nd or 3rd book that was like this, that I didn't really like that much, like I didn't really care that much about, that really lowered its rating for me. But that is Better Than Fiction by Alexa Martin. Is that the author? Yes. And this is something I was actually really excited to read. It's a romance, contemporary romance, like Grumpy Sunshine, but she is grumpy and he is sunshine. And it's between this woman who has inherited her grandmother's bookstore and a romance author who is like staying in town while he's writing his next book. And so it's similar, I guess, to Book Lovers. In that book, not Book Lovers. What's that other Emily Henry book? Beach Read, where one person writes romance and the other person writes like literary fiction, and they swap genres for a summer. And then they like go on dates to help like inspire romance or whatever. That's like basically the premise of this. I felt like the romance aspect of it, so it's leans a little more like contemporary chick lit than it does romance, to me, in my opinion. And the romance never felt like it was like the main story. The main story is other stuff that's going on in the main female character's life. So she's having issues with her like dad, her biological dad, who it was his mother who gave her the bookstore. And she's having some like legal issues, and she doesn't really believe in love. So like there's all this stuff kind of compounding in her life, and I wanted a romance. So that's on me, but 2.5 stars, which means like this book was fine. I just didn't really enjoy my time reading it. Like there's nothing wrong with the book. I think if that sounds like a good time to you, I think you might like it. I just personally did not. Now to 3 stars. I have quite a few of these to get through, I believe. First one I want to talk about is another romance that I read, and this is The Cock Down the Block by Amy Award. Yes. And I stumbled upon this on TikTok. Someone was saying that they read it. It is a little steamy as far as romance goes. So definitely be aware there is definitely some like steamy stuff happening in this one. I don't know. Read at your own discretion, I guess. But this is a family friend, friends to lovers, like long-term friends romance, which is what I was looking for. And this one is interesting because it's like the family is a bunch of football players, like male football players. And the female protagonist has been like friends with the male protagonist since high school. They've been like best friends, and he thinks that she turned him down in high school, and she thinks that he turned her down in high school, and they've been friends for like 10 years, and then eventually they get together through the course of this book. It was very cute. It was very sweet. Not my favorite thing that I've ever read, to be honest, but definitely not bad. I had a great time reading it. I thought it was very entertaining. I liked the spicy scenes, some of them. For the most part, like they were fine. And I like enjoyed the chemistry. It's a little kooky. It's a little goofy. The female main character has chickens. That's why it's called The Cock Down the Block. It was cute. You know, nothing spectacular, but I am tempted. This is a series. And I'm tempted to pick up the one about the next brother. So we'll see if I do. I'll have to look at the tropes of that one. I really am like such a trope dependent romance reader. Like if I don't like the trope in a book, I'm not gonna like the book very much, unfortunately. The next 3-star I want to talk about is The Trouble with Hating You by Sajini Patel, maybe? I don't know how her name is pronounced. I'm sorry about that. But this was okay. I really liked parts of this. Other parts of it just really didn't work for me. I gave this 3 stars as well, like I mentioned, but I feel like realistically I could have given this 2.5 stars and lived with that choice. I liked The Cock Down the Block more than this, so I am doing this a little out of order, so sorry about that. But this is about a woman who is kind of like the town skank or like the community skank. She's really involved in the Indian community. She has kind of a bad reputation, and this has very heavy topics. It deals a lot with like child abuse and molestation, so just know that going in. I did not know it was going to focus on that so much, and I do think that like put a damper on my enjoyment. Like, not that I can't have heavy subjects in my romance, I just didn't prefer that being discussed. And again, it's not like triggering for me. Like it didn't put me into, I don't get triggered by that kind of thing. There are things that I prefer not to read. It's not on page, but it is talked about. And the first time it was talked about, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But then I feel like it kept getting brought up, and I kind of wish it hadn't. So I don't know. That's on me. Again, it's personal preference. But this is a romance between her and this guy that her family at the start of the book is trying to set her up with, but she hates that her parents are matchmaking for her. So she like runs out on their date and runs directly into him and knocks him over. And then her parents are really mad at her, and she's really embarrassed by this. But then they end up like developing a relationship because he is a lawyer who has been hired by her, the biotech company that she works for, because they're going under. And so he's trying to help them not like lose their business. And she's like a really high up management position, so they end up having to do a lot of late nights together, which I don't know how realistic that is. I don't work in-house, but I can imagine that we probably don't hang out with the employees of a company all that often. But, you know, they form a really cute bond. They have a really cute relationship. So in that way, I did like it better than the Alexa Martin one, because I feel like it was very focused on their romance, even though it did have a lot to do with like the female protagonist's past and her like not getting over it, but like healing from it. Healing from trauma? I don't know. So I liked that one okay. Like I thought it was fine. I had a good time reading it. I will probably not read anything by this author again just because I didn't love it. And also, part of the reason it only got 3 stars for me is it is kind of a like closed door romance. I don't know that they ever do anything besides kiss, which is fine. But not like my preference for romance, I guess. Who am I? What am I turning into? I don't know. But anyways, that's just my opinion on that one. Okay. Now I think I have one more 3. Oh, here we are. The other book I gave 3 stars is Charlotte Welch Likes to Win. And so I did do a more in-depth review of this in the vlog where I read it, so I will direct you to that. But this is a contemporary chick lit book about a woman who is 47 and she runs a tech company, and she's decided that she wants to run for office back in her home state of Pennsylvania after living in Silicon Valley for however long. Her husband had an affair before the book starts. And so most of the book is about her campaign and her trying to prevent people from finding out that he had an affair. And also she has another secret that we don't know about until we know about it. And yeah, it's about her campaigning. I don't really love political books. I've talked about this before. I thought this was fine. There were parts of this that made me feel very emotional. I'll give you the same caveat that I gave in my vlog. If you are a more like right-leaning person, you will not like this because it is a very like, she's a leftist, she's a liberal politician. She's not a leftist. But if that doesn't bother you, then that might not bother you. But like, it wasn't as heavy-handed as it could have been. But again, I prefer not to have that in my books because I don't know, if I'm reading a nonfiction like to learn, that's fine. I was not. I'm trying to have like a good time. And I don't know, I'm kind of over the like wannabe Hillary Clinton protagonists. I hope that doesn't ruffle any feathers. I don't love it. Just not, again, not my personal preference, but maybe it is yours, but it's not mine. So 3 stars. It was not bad. Just not my favorite. And I knew that going in. Like, this has been on my TBR a long time. And I've read several books that have this kind of thing that I didn't love. So I knew going in that I probably wouldn't like it as much. I still had a great time. Like, I still had a fine time reading it. It was fun. Now I have one 3.5 star, which is Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. This is my second T. Kingfisher, and both of them are like not memorable to me. The Hollow Places is the last one that I read, and I think that's cosmic horror. I remember reading it and being like, I don't really get what's happening, and then it was over. And this one was different. Like, this is fantasy, but it's set in this world where there's like, our protagonist is the youngest daughter, I think, of like a small country ruler people. I don't know if she's like a princess or exactly what, but both of her older sisters now have been married off to this man. One of them was like died early on in her marriage, and then the second one gets married, and you know that the man is like abusing the women. And so the younger sister has to go and like rescue her sister from this guy. And I don't remember what happens, but I assume she does it. So hope that's not a spoiler. I don't know what happens in this book. I could not tell you. I don't know why I gave it 3.5 stars instead of like 2.5 stars, because it has, right gone. I don't know. I read that a long time ago, I guess, at the beginning of August, and I don't remember much about it. I just don't know. People love T. Kingfisher. Her books don't stick with me. I don't know what happens in them. So I'm really like disappointed in myself for that. Sorry about that. For my 4-star reads, I did read, what one should I talk about first? I'll talk about How to Write an Autobiographical Novel first. This is by Alexander Chee, who attended the Iowa Writers Workshop. It's his memoir. It's about growing up, being half Asian, and how that felt for him, like not really fitting in. It's also about like being a writer. It's a little bit about being gay and finding out about that and like how his family reacted to that. I don't know. It was fine. It was good. I enjoyed it. I remember feeling very like emotionally attached to some of the story. It's a collection of essays. So some of the essays I felt really attached to, and then others of them I did not really. And I don't really remember that much about this one either, apparently, but I do remember liking it. So I think if that's the type of thing that you're into, you could also like it. Another book that I gave 4 stars. Oh, I've not been doing a good job of telling you. I gave In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune 3 stars. Forgot to mention that. I also gave A Long Petal of the Sea by Isabel Allende 4 stars. I talked about those in my last wrap up that I did at the beginning of the month, so I will link you to that if you are curious about my reviews. I gave Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab 4 stars this month. I really enjoyed this book. I did not know if I was going to. It's been on my TBR again a long time because it's one of those like fantasy books that I feel like everybody talks about. And I've read some other V. Schwabs. What have I read? I read her like Gallant. Don't remember that much about it. I think I gave it 4 stars. Can't recall really what happened in that one. Sorry. And then I also read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and I gave that one 4 stars, and I really enjoyed that one. That one does stick in my memory. But I had some gripes with that book, but overall I did really like it. This book, I don't really know if I have any gripes with, honestly, but it's just not a 5-star read for me, for whatever reason. I don't know why. But this is about this guy who, okay, we'll back up. In the world that he is in, there are like 3 different versions of London, and there's like gray London, red London, and white London and black London. Are there 4 different versions of London? Oh no, now I can't remember. There are various versions of London, and one of them doesn't exist anymore. In one of them, there is no magic. That's Great London. And then this guy's from one of the Londons that does have magic. And then there's another London that had too much magic, and that's why it doesn't exist anymore. And he can go between worlds, between Londons. And he's like a messenger for the king of the London that he is from that I can't remember right now. I'm so sorry. I ended up really liking this book. It has kind of a Mistborn vibe to it with the relationship between this main male protagonist and then this female character that he like finds along the way. And for some reason she's like a thief. So that also kind of reminded me of Mistborn because they're like street urchins. So she's a street urchin. And I liked it. I liked their like banter back and forth, the little relationship thing that they've got going. And I had a really good time reading this book. And I do plan on continuing in the series at this point. Who knows when I will actually get to doing that though, because I looked and I don't even think any of the other books in the series are on my actual Goodreads TBR yet. And I am trying to read my Goodreads TBR down to under 1,000 books, and I still have like almost 1,200 on there. So it'll be a while. Next book I gave 4 stars was Baking Me Crazy by Carla Sorensen. And this is another like friends to lovers, best friends romance. This is the first book in a series that's called like Love at First Sight, which really freaked me out at first. However, because it's a friends to romance lover or friends to lovers romance, the Love at First Sight didn't bother me as much. So the premise is that this guy's family is cursed to have every male in the family. He will, when he sees the love of his life, he knows, and he falls in love with her and can like only love her forever or whatever. That's the premise. And this guy, when he's a teenager, is coaching. He might be like 18 and I think she's 16, but he's coaching a what is it called? Wheelchair basketball? Is it called something else? I don't know. He's coaching a wheelchair basketball team. And he meets this girl who is in a wheelchair, obviously. And he sees her and knows that she's the love of his life. And then that happens at the very beginning of the book. And then we flash forward, like, I think it's 5 years. So I think she's maybe longer than that. Because I think at the beginning of the book, she's 21. That would be 5 years. I'm bad at math. She's 21. He's like 23. And he's just gotten a master's in physical therapy. And so I don't think she's like paralyzed. She had a disease when she was a child. She got an infection in her spine that affected her ability to use her legs, but she can still walk. She just is like training them back up to be able to walk again, is basically what it is. And they had a really cute romance. I really liked it. I don't know how it did for disability rep because I'm not disabled in that way, so I could not tell you. However, it felt tastefully done, if that makes sense. Of the red flags that I've seen people talk about with people with characters wheelchair bound in books, she didn't really have any of them. Like, she doesn't have the depression, life is meaningless, all of that stuff. She's pretty happy, pretty content. She definitely struggles because she's doing her physical therapy thing, and she like gets really frustrated with her body's ability to do certain things and inability to do other things. But overall, she has a very positive outlook on life, and there is a happy ending in this book. It's not like what happens in some other books where there are characters in wheelchairs. I will leave it at that. I really liked it. And it's called Baking Me Crazy because I think before it was in the Love at First Sight one, it was actually in a series for like this romances that were set at this bakery. Because the second book also has a baking pun, and I think it's another person who works at the bakery. So the main character works at this bakery. It's clear to me that the author didn't really know where she was going with the series, but I don't care. I had a good time. I had a good time reading it. I liked it a lot. It really just like, it scratched that friends to lovers over time itch that I've been wanting scratched. So I was happy about that. And then I think the last 4-star that I have to talk about, I hope it's the last one, is The Christie Affair by Nina de Gramont. I don't know if that's how her name is pronounced. I don't speak French. And I don't even know if that is French, but whatever it is, I don't speak it. But this is a fictionalized version of Agatha Christie's disappearance from several points of view. So the one point of view is the woman that Agatha Christie's husband was having an affair with. And that's like the main point of view. She's like the main narrator. Actually, it might be only her point of view, but she does tell you what's happening with each of the characters, which is interesting. So she talks about her own life. She also talks about what a detective who is looking for Agatha Christie is doing, and she talks about what Agatha Christie herself is doing, and also she talks about what Agatha Christie's husband is doing. And it was very good. I didn't ultimately love some of the choices towards the end. I've heard that they're making a, what is that? A TV show with this, and this is terrible. It's either going to star Daisy Edgar Jones or the other Daisy that was in Star Wars. I think it's the Star Wars one. Don't quote me on that. I don't know, but I will watch that when it comes out, I guess. I had a really good time with this. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. And then towards the end, I was like, which is why I didn't get a 5-star, because it was really like trending up. I had a great time reading this book. I was like very hooked into what was going on. I thought the narration style was like funny and quirky. I also really liked that the author leaned into the fact that this is likely not what happened, but it's covering I think it's 10 days that Agatha Christie went missing and she came back and had amnesia. And it's just like a very fun take on it, I thought. I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. Again, I didn't love everything about it, but I had a great time. So anyways, for 5 stars that I read this month, the ones that I'm not going to be talking about, I'm not going to be talking about The Stranger by Albert Camus because I already reviewed it. I will not be talking about The Dutch House by Anne Patchett because I already reviewed that. And I will not be talking about Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney because I did also already review that. But the last 5-star in the last book, I guess, that I have to talk about is Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey, which I will not go too far in depth in because I do have a vlog where I reviewed that. But this is a horror book about a woman named Vera who goes back to her childhood home because her mother is dying. And her mom calls her and is like, listen, Vera, you have to come home. And she's really dreading it. And so you don't really know what happened the whole time. You kind of do. I am of the opinion that it was a little obvious what was going on for parts of this. But it is kind of a haunted house book. And it had the certain types of haunted house that I really enjoy. So one of those things is like, I like it when the house almost feels like a character, like an extra, I don't know, not like, the house doesn't have to be sentient, but like, I like that like atmosphere. I also really enjoyed Vera as a character. I thought she was a very interesting character. I thought the author did a good job at timing the reveals. I have heard people DNF this book because it is too slow and nothing is happening. I disagree in that I don't think it was too slow. I think it was like building atmosphere and that works for me. But if that doesn't work for you, then that won't work for you and you should know that going in. So you're not like picking up this book on my recommendation and then you're like, what the fuck is she talking about? Anyways, I loved it. I thought it was really interesting. I knew one of the reveals is like fairly obvious and I'm pretty sure you're supposed to know that one the whole time. I'm not going to tell you what it is because it still gets revealed, but what was actually happening, like the second reveal that goes hand in hand with that reveal, I'm sorry I'm being so vague, that I did not expect. It was a little subversion on a trope and I enjoyed that as well. But I really like this book. It's a little kooky and like goofy at times, which sounds bad because it is about a very serious subject matter, but I enjoyed it. I had a really good time and it made me really excited for like spooky season almost because it's September now. So I got to get my like spooky reading on. But if I didn't already mention, I read Just Like Home. What was the other one? Charlotte Walsh Likes to Win, and then Machines Like Me, which I DNF'd for a vlog reading the buzzword picks. So that's why I read those 3 books. They were the buzzword in August was like. So I read those 3 books to fulfill that. And I posted that vlog earlier this week, so you can watch it if you are so inclined. But that is it. Those are the 18 books that I read in the month of August, minus the ones that I've already reviewed. I will have the 2 videos where I review the other books that I didn't really talk about in depth here. I will have them linked down below so you can go watch them if you are curious about more thoughts on these things. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite thing that you read in August was. Also, let me know what you are planning on reading for September. And if you've read any of these books, you can feel free to let me know how you felt about them. If you agree or disagree with me. If you think I should give another shot to the books I DNF'd, I will not, but you can let me know if you think that. And that's it. Thanks so much for watching this video. Like it if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content from me. I am trying to get back into posting 2 times a week, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!